funny. Hey, will you mention this time if you're not fishing? Did we get have those little comments that we were tonight? Last time I was here, we had it on our phone. Get school real fast. I'm trying to do it on Facebook. But I will. Yeah, I'll do it on mine and we can share it. Why don't we have our own group? Get school group. We probably could. We're baby steps. Very, very small. Do this, man. Ready? Do it. Stop the mad. With Instagram, right? Prop talk tonight, man. Get spook fishing. Can I tag? Do a hashtag. That'll pull the good ball to blow up there. Digging it? Digging it. We've already seen this. There it went.
All right, we're here.
Are we on?
We're live.
Hey,
Something's going on with the intro.
Welcome
It kept
to
looping.
another big show. Get spooled fishing.
Get spool fishing.
Yeah, it was like we got to see.
I'm glad you caught that because we're all just looking at our phones
I'm
like.
sitting here going, man, I've seen the intro 3 times now. What's that mean?
Well, hey, you know, sometimes you gotta wait for the
We
best.
need an extra minute to get the props.
That's right.
The set props.
Well,
the show props.
If you didn't know, what do you think tonight's show's about?
Big props.
Yeah.
Big props.
That's right. That's right.
We're gonna do a show on props tonight, guys. Captain Jason Prieto, Rick Riles in the house, Captain James Beers. Travis took a hall pass.
Personal day.
Took a personal day.
Some
We gave it to
personal time
him.
available.
We said okay. We approved it.
Approved.
But so we've been talking fishing, and honestly, we're gonna start the show off with fishing. Do a quick little fishing report, but it really is not changing too much And I honestly felt after the last show I did, I was like, we are beating a dead horse. It's time to.
Well, you fished yesterday, right?
Yeah,
and that's after a lot of the rain?
Yeah.
What'd you see out there?
I fished 3 times last week. Got rained on all 3 poured.
Yeah, all day.
Snook fishing was decent. A lot of small snook. Got a few reds. The redfish have moved around on where I was getting them. I wasn't fishing big schools, just fishing trees. I'm excited. Tried to do some snapper fishing yesterday in the bay. We got a few nice grouper, got rocked up a few times, and the guys were adamant on. I had took this guy in July and we wrecked him.
Mm-hmm.
But there's just so much dirty water,
Yeah.
and I think we're getting the end of our snapper run, and it just wasn't a good day. The
Mhm.
bait was tough, and it was the day after we've had all these low, high pressure systems moving around, storm systems. So it was a tough bite for me. But I think would have done better if I would have went inshore. They refused to go inshore.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, if you want to keep doing bad, I mean, what
Right.
do you do? Like, I
the-
hit 6 snapper spots. I ran from the port to basically Little Harbor twice on different spots, trying different stuff, trying to get the tide to start triggering. The tide was off yesterday, and the outgoing stayed outgoing for about an hour at least,
Mhm.
longer. I don't know if that's due to rain or whatnot, but last week is just hard to judge. You find. Was it Tuesday I fished? We did pretty good. We got some redfish. We got some snook.
Mhm.
Got some. Just starting to see some big schools of jacks showing up.
Some of the jacks were with the Reds.
Yep. No, the jacks I seen were just with the jacks, but
Well,
the
yeah.
jacks were with the jacks. But it was more of, wow, there's a big thunderstorm coming. Let me go that way, not because
Yeah.
fishing's better, because that's
Just
the
to
only
get out of the
place
way.
to
Don't
go.
wanna get-
Yeah.
So you find yourself dodging stuff more than fishing optimum spots. And the weather pattern we've just had this week has been
Yeah.
it is straight ditch water in the river.
Oh, it was.
I
Today
mean,
was,
it looks
was
like a
black.
ditch overflowing.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I haven't seen like that in a long
It
time.
was black out there today.
Yeah.
We got a lot of rain. I mean, you just like you, dude. I fished in the rain. Like Tuesday, rain. Friday there wasn't any escaping it, and I had some gung ho guys. I couldn't run my morning trip because it was just covering the bay. But my afternoon group wanted to go, and so I went out. We were supposed to pick them up at 1:30, so I went out and caught bait, and bait was great. Bait was the easiest it's been for me all summer. I mean, it's been easy, but I only threw twice and just had more bait than I could use. And I went to go check on some redfish, and they were overrun by snook. I mean, I haven't had a snook day like that where it's 40, 50 fish in some time. But I noticed the water was about 80 degrees where I was fishing, so I'm sure that had a lot to do with it. But, yeah, really good snook bite. Definitely, compared to what I've been seeing, some better size, too.
Yeah.
Like a lot of those 20 to 25-inch fish, but, 1 out of 6 or 7 was a slot fish.
Oh, really? That's
yeah,
good. That's
so
good.
that
was-
happened on
That
the
was
South Shore for
encouraging.
me.
I hadn't seen
Yeah.
I hadn't seen it in a while either. I think it was just a combination of that water temperature and everything being active and wanting to feed. But yeah, I couldn't fish Saturday, so Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday were total washes for me. And then went out to Beer Can Island yesterday with the family.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I did see that, man. I fished
It was like,
yesterday.
well, let me say this lake beer can, because the water was practically fresh water.
Yeah.
You're used to coming out of after swimming all day and hanging with the kids,
Feeling
everybody's
all-
just completely drained, salt dried all over them. It's really felt like we spent a morning at the lake
Wow.
yesterday. It was kind of neat.
Well, Rick, give us a quick fishing report, and I think within the time frame we have more than enough to cover. So
Well-
we're gonna roll with it.
It sounds like I picked a good week to go to Georgia. I mean,
week, man.
I kept
You
looking
picked
at
an
the
excellent
weather,
week.
and I'm like, man, I would go to the radar in the morning because they're in a drought in Georgia. I mean,
Wow.
it's hard to believe.
We can turn
Pond
the
up
fans
there's-
on.
the
man.
pond up there is down like 2 foot.
Everybody needs to turn their fans,
Yeah.
point them north.
Yeah,
There
they
you are on
need
the
it.
Gulf Coast.
Dude, they need it bad. The price of cotton and the price of peanuts may be high this year. But I came back Sunday evening and fished today, and my fishing report, it was bait was easy. After not being on the water for 9 days, I didn't know.
Mhm.
Just kind of look at the old log and where do you catch bait this time of year. Went there, caught bait like you said. It was easy. Caught some good bait, which that's what I was nervous about because I had some guys that I know pretty well, fished with me before, that wanted to redfish. And, it's hard to redfish with those little micros.
I
So
know.
we got good bait and got some good pins, and one of them fishes a lot, and he's been crushing them on pinfish. So, we got some good pinfish. And then, let's go find the reds. And, man, I was seeing reds all day today. A couple schools of reds, 3 schools to be exact, and just a chess game. We caught one redfish. It was a nice one. It was 30 inches, but several snook. I don't know, not a whole lot, 6, 7 snook maybe.
Right.
But by mistake. Got a snapper by mistake, but we were red fishing, and gosh, we had them around us all day, but not in casting range.
Well, they just wouldn't slow down, or
They
just
would
wouldn't stop
not
moving?
slow. These fish were on the move. In fact, the first school I saw, I was kind of hoping Jeffrey Page was there. I was kind of hoping that him and I was going to be able to work them together a little bit, but they just vanished. And, I think Jeff was thinking the same thing I was. Where in the world did these fish go? Because they were up and moving and had to, definitely tell what they were, busting baits. And then they just left. They were gone. And we messed around there for a little bit, and then I left that spot. The one of the spots I wanted to go to that I caught some redfish the day that I left to go to Georgia, man, I couldn't even get to it. Water, it was just too low. Water was low this morning.
Yeah.
And
I noticed this week's going to have a few of those lower tides that we haven't really seen.
It was low, and the wind was keeping it out, and it wasn't a lot of wind, but it was just enough that it just kind of slowed it down a little bit. So I went north and got on some redfish that I'd been on before I went to Georgia, and didn't know if they were even going to be there because 9 days. A lot happens in 9 days. Man, we pulled up there. 20 minutes after we're there, we see them, and they kind of got split up. There was a couple schools. Messed around, played the game with them. These fish you can't chase, so tried to get in front of them. Blah blah blah. Had a couple shots at them. Just couldn't get them to eat, and they sounded, and we sat there for like 45 minutes and never saw them. And I said, guys, we're gonna be old school. And I know y'all have done this, but I haven't done this in years. I said, we're going to be old school. I'm going to get these fish up. We put everything, packed it in, cranked the motor, and I ran down that flat like this. And, man, we got to the end, turned around and come back, and, man, they were up, beating up baits. After 45 minutes of sitting there, they were just mowing them over. Roll up there, and when we first got up to them, I had to get the wind right and everything. I got up to them, and I'm like, these are jacks. Dadgummit, these are jacks. And, I had these fish I've been on where they just turned the water red. And I said, these are, and we had seen reds there earlier that the water turned around. I said, this is a school of jacks come in here. And then I saw a redfish go by the boat, like that. I said, throw in there, man. I don't know. There was more jacks than there were redfish, and how he hooked a red, I don't know.
Oh, he did.
He hooked one, and we got him. But anyway, it was one of those. And I told them, I said, you know what? And if there's anybody out there, and I know there's a ton of people out there, if you like red fishing, you will agree with this. I told them, I said, I'm having more fun now playing this chess game than going somewhere and sitting on 40 snook.
Yeah.
Because that's
the
thrill
of the hunt.
Anybody can go up there and throw on 40 snook when they're eating and get them to eat. This was a chess game today, and to me that's fun. If you like red fishing, and it's frustrating, but it was
yeah, it'll be frustrating.
It was fun. But anyway, that's my fishing report. I didn't mean to get long-winded.
A lot better than mine.
Yeah.
Well.
We got plenty to talk about with these props, and I know that Jason, you're kind of the go-to for the guy on your left and your right. You're our go-to guy when we've got questions
I know
about
the
props.
basics. There's guys that know a lot more. I know the basics on props. I know enough to get me in trouble and spend too much money on props.
Well, I told.
But you've been there to answer a lot of questions for us.
Yeah, well,
sure.
it's not. It's really not rocket science, and there's stuff out there nowadays that can help you prop out your boat. The biggest question that people, you go to the dealer and you buy a boat. Everybody says, "Well, I want to get the bigger motor." Well, if you don't put the right prop on it, why not take what you're buying and get the most out of it?
Sure.
Whether it's fuel economy, speed, whole shot.
Absolutely.
Why not get the absolute best out of what you have? And the only way you can do that, this is the last thing that happens in an engine. It can be 500 horsepower, but if you got the wrong prop on it, and the $1 million question is, what's the right prop? The right prop is the prop that fits your boat, because there's no right prop. That's why there's tons of different variations of props, whether it's cupping, 4-blade, 5-blade, pitch, diameter. We're basically going to break this down pretty simple. And I wrote some questions. The first big question that always comes up, and it's a no-brainer for this area: do I run an aluminum prop or do I run a stainless prop? If you care anything about performance, you run a stainless. Most people run stainless. If you run the flats, you want to run a stainless. Why? Aluminum will get chewed up from the sand, running through the sand. You'll eat them up. Now, if you're the guy that hits a rock every weekend, you probably might want to shift towards aluminum, because you're going to rip your lower unit up.
With a steel prop, you would rip your lower unit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Stainless steel, yes. So, again, everything is based on application.
Yeah.
You need to ask yourself, when you buy a new boat and you see the stainless, you go, okay, well, it's got a stainless prop on it. A lot of people assume right out of the get-go that boat's propped out right. It's a 3-blade prop. It's stainless. I'm good. That's so far from true.
Right.
It's just not. I will tell you this. I've dealt with boats my whole life. I've dealt with buying boats from a dealer. And I'll tell you a story. I bought my first new boat, and it wasn't much to most people. It was a lot to me. I was, I think, 18. I got me a 1502 Key West. Nice little flats. I loved it. It was great. Had a 60-horse Yamaha. Didn't know a lot about props. I knew a lot about engines and stuff just because what I used to do and all that. But I didn't. I said, I want to get a stainless prop. Tell the dealer. What most people do. Had a 60-horse Yamaha on it, and this is before 4-strokes and all that stuff. This boat was so horrible getting up on plane, and I kept beating my head against the wall. It was like, I was ready to, I need a bigger motor. It was that bad. It would run decent speed, but it was ridiculous.
Getting it to
decent speed. God. I was like, I can't deal with this. So me being the person I am, I always try to look into stuff, and I'll tinker with stuff till I either figure it out or get aggravated and sell it. Went to Keys Marine, and I talked to somebody there, and I said, look, man, I got this. It was a ballistic was the brand of the prop. It was a 3-blade ballistic, and the prop had cut blades. The blades were not traditionally round like you see here. Long story short, guy hands me a Mercury prop, and he says it was a Vengeance. He said, try this 3-blade. I said, man, it's the same prop I got. So I thought. Stuck this prop on. Unbelievable. 3-blade, stainless prop. Everything, in theory, if you don't look into it, is the same. New boat. I mean, solved all problems.
Different.
It was a different.
Pitch.
The blade. No, the pitch was close. It was the design of the blade. It was a bigger, robust blade designed for the application of my boat, basically. Where the ballistic prop was more of a, if I remember correctly, it had chopped blades. It was more of a speed prop.
Wide barrel or long barrel?
I don't remember all that, but it was probably. So
we might be getting ahead of ourselves with that question.
My point being is, all props are different. All boats are different, especially these days. When you say, well, what prop do I need? Well, there's the first questions that pop out of my head. Is it a pontoon boat? Is it a tri-tune? Is it a stepped hull? Is it a tunnel hull? Is it a traditional V-hull? All makes they make a big difference. Example, you just went from a 25 stepped hull Pathfinder hybrid, and you bought a Schaefer.
Yeah.
Totally different boats. where and I think you're figuring that out. Where a stepped the 25 Pathfinder likes to run at 38 mile an hour, and you get better fuel economy because of the design of the hull. A Schaefer will run 40, but you're not at the sweet spot for fuel economy by any means. And the boats here, let me back this off a little bit. The boats are just totally different design boats. Where do you have a back heavy boat? These are things you need to understand. Do you have a back heavy boat? Do you have a front heavy boat? If you're a guide, where are you going to run most of your weight at? In the back? Like my boat's set up for people to sit in the back. Or my Canyon Bay was set up for kind of people to sit in the front. So there's different characteristics that will change what you run.
Yeah.
And I will tell you this, there's a lot of stuff on YouTube. The only way to figure out what works for you is to get in the boat with a few different props and try different props and figure out. And you need to have a goal. Is my goal to run 63 mile an hour versus 60?
Yeah.
Top end? Or is my goal I want to get...
That's what I was going to ask you is, like, can somebody say, because when we first started doing the show together a little over a year ago, when I was running my old boat, the Skeeter, and I called you one day and I said, this is what my experience is like now, and this is what I'm trying to get out. Remember, I was like, I want to get out of the hole quicker, get up on plane faster. And you're like, well, what do you have? And then from there, you start diagnosing it. So I think if you know what your goals are, what you'd like to get, or, on the inverse, you could say, this is what I don't like about the experience now that I'm getting, whether it's doesn't cruise at good at miles per gallon, or it's not fast enough, or it's too slow out of the hole, or my bow ride's too low,
Yeah, there's different things, and it all depends on the boat. I'm going to give you a couple manufacturers, and I'm going to enlighten you guys. I am a Mercury guy. I like their products. Some people are Yamaha guys. Some people are Suzuki guys. It really don't matter with props with Mercury. I will tell you this. PowerTech makes some good props. Mercury makes some really good props. This is coming from prop people that work on them.
Mercury puts Mercury on mine.
Me too.
Mercury props,
and I got a Yamaha.
Well, Mercury puts a lot of emphasis on their props. They actually have a Mercury Racing division. They got Mercury Racing props, which is which they're balanced. They go through them a little bit more, and they fine tune them. Like you can get half pitch intervals versus a typical prop is 2-pitch. So Mercury makes props for all engines. You can run. Travis is running a Mercury prop on a Suzuki. You're running a Mercury prop on a Yamaha. So you don't need to buy brand specific. I will tell you, Mercury does a great job on their props. I've got one prop here in particular that if you told me to make one choice, just a blind choice on a boat for an all-around great prop, that prop right there, it's the Mercury Inertia Eco, is going to be hands down the best. Now, certain situations, it's not the best, but has been with 3 different boats the top 2 choices on every boat. And that prop was designed with fuel economy in mind. And they hit a home run with that prop. They've done a great job. Yeah, it's the Inertia Eco. Certain circumstances.
But I think when you go on the Mercury website, I was playing around, they have that prop selector, where it asks you all those questions you're talking about. Like you go through what type of hull, what are your performance goals, all that. When it describes the Eco, it does talk about fuel efficiency or fuel economy. But then it says, like, without sacrificing top speed and hole
you
shot.
can't have both. You can't run
down a little bit. Somebody had asked a question.
You can't run your fastest speed
Bob.
typically, and also get great fuel economy.
Right.
Like you have to give some to get some. So you have to figure out what are you targeting. So I want to go over a few basics.
Let me answer a question real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
He specifically asked, Bob asked, this is what I run, Bob. The Bravo 4-blade 21 pitch.
No, you don't.
19 pitch.
No, you don't.
Yeah, it is.
I'm going to correct. Rick's right to a certain extent. I'll tell you how technical props are. It's not technical, but this is a Bravo 1, yes. They make about 7 different versions. This is a Bravo XC for extra cup. You got a Bravo FS, which is 4-stroke. The Bravo FS doesn't have as much cup as this, and the barrel is cut and it's not flared.
It may not be. It may not that. But I'm just saying it's the Bravo 4 blade.
Yeah, but they make.
I don't know about the cup and all that on mine.
Well, they make probably 7 or 8 different
Before we even
versions.
start talking about cup, we better explain that. And I know.
Yeah, but mine's it's a 21.
Yeah,
I was running a 23.
Yep.
So when you said no, I'm like, well, it's a 19, but it's not a 19. It's
That's a
19.
19
It's
there.
a 21, and I love it. Bob, it makes my boat. It's the best prop I've ever found for my boat, and I'll tell you this: I don't know all the science to this. When I get a new motor, I go to Jason. I say, Jason, what prop do I need?
Well, your situation is pretty easy because you don't get the motor is pretty easy to figure out. If you go up to if you went to 300, you're probably gonna have to look at your gear case ratio. It's a 175, 185, or a 208 or 235, whatever that number is. You're gonna go up or down in pitch.
So we had a different prop on my old motor. We had a 3-blade, and then when I got the new motor, same motor, but I wanted a 4-blade, and that's because I didn't care about the top end. I wanted a bigger hole shot. I wanted to be able to cruise slower on plane.
Yeah,
and so we went 4-blade. But Jason, I'm telling you, if I don't want to volunteer you to ring his phone up, but if you got prop issues or prop questions, I'm telling you, he's the professor. He got me going, and I'm telling you, for my Ranger, I got a 22 Bay Ranger with a 250 Yamaha. That's the prop that works best, and I've had about 4 or 5 different props, and no question, that's the best prop. Now it may not be the same cup or the same barrel or all that, but it is the same prop.
What vent configuration are you running on that one?
2.3 fluted.
Well, yeah. it's the. Let's cover the
statistics
basics
of a prop. Diameter, pitch. Give us the rundown on what
So
those things mean.
diameter and pitch is going to determine. All right, here's an example.
Because every time you look at a prop, those are the two things you got to
well,
know, right?
more people pay attention to pitch, and rightfully so. So your pitch is the angle of the blade.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I actually looked at some video to refresh my memory on how to explain this, one of the best things I heard was on the Mercury site was your pitch is like taking a screw and screwing it into wood, and that's kind of the revolution that you're getting. If it's a 17 pitch, they say it's going to go 17 inches on a turn. If it's 19, it goes 19. So basically your pitch is your gear.
Right.
So the other thing is diameter. Diameter is the measure. Let me see. You got that measuring tape? That is from. You can go tip to tip from here to here. I think this one's 15.25.
15 and a quarter.
Yeah, 15 and a quarter. So that is also going to change your RPMs.
So that's from the tip of a blade to a tip of a blade.
Yeah. Now this one I might not be able to do. This is actually a 3-blade, but it's a 16-inch diameter. This is where this prop. This is the Mercury Inertia Eco. This is where this prop earns its money. If you look at, they have stats on this. Mercury does, and the fuel economy on this prop for the. John, you probably have a 21 pitch Inertia. There's an Inertia Eco, which is a totally different prop. The Inertia is like a 14 and a quarter diameter prop, and it has very different blades. The Inertia was a good prop. I used to run them until they came out with this. This is the Eco version,
which is the larger diameter too.
Large diameter.
Other way.
So, 3 things you need to know when you're propping out. You need to know what gear case you have in your motor.
Gear ratio.
Gear ratio, yes. If you look on the side of your motor, a lot of times there'll be a sticker. It'll say 1.85 times 1 or 1.75 times 1. It's usually Mercury and Yamaha is a 175 or a 185 on the bigger motors. If you're running the Pro XS, like my 150 is a 208. The higher that number, that's how I'm going to explain this, the higher pitch prop you're going to run. So a 175 is more direct. So you have to know what gear case you're running, and then you need to figure out what pitch you're running. The key is you need to have your RPMs. Let me throw this out there. Just because you're running a bigger pitch prop doesn't mean the boat's going to go faster.
Right.
Because if you got, I'm going to use a Verado for instance. And John, by the way, if you're running 6,200, you're right in the range on a Verado.
Mm-hmm.
A 350 Mercury Verado, the RPM range that they want you at wide open is 5,800 to 64. Okay? Typically 6,200 is where I would target that motor. So let's just say you have a 350 Verado and you run it wide open, you got the fuel tank full, and you're turning 5,600. So you know that you're trying to, okay, how do I bring that up? Because I'm at that point you're lugging the motor down. You're not within the RPM range of the manufacturer. Every pitch, and rule of thumb, general, every pitch that you drop is 200 RPMs. Now that changes with this prop because it's so big in diameter. That's why they sell it in half increments. Ooh, sound is bad. Oh. Hold on a second. I don't know why my sound's bad. Okay, is that better? Check, 1, 2, good. So if you're turning 5,600, you need to be around 6,000. I would tell you to drop 2 pitch on whatever prop you're running. Mm-hmm. And that would put you within range. What you'll find when you drop that 2 pitch, you will probably pick up a mile an hour or 2 because the motor is in the sweet spot. Your whole shot will get better, and your fuel economy will get better. So knowing what pitch to run at what RPM is going to tell you where you are. And when I say you, the thing you need to do too is make sure when you're running this, don't put your engine all the way down. People don't know how to run boats. It surprises me every day. There's a trim button there for a reason. The trim lifts the bow of your boat, which gets you in the sweet spot. You need to trim this out, not to where the prop's blowing out, but where you get the boat in the sweet spot, run it wide open, get in a big stretch of calm water, and record what RPMs you're at. That will tell you which way to go. Every motor's different. I know Verado's spin up a little bit more. I think your motor's at 6,000 is the max before you hit the rev limit. It's 56 or 5,800 to 6,100. James, you're now running a Verado, so you want to be around that 62, 63.
I think I'm 61.
Okay. Verados, you can spin up to 6,500.
Which we're going to talk about tonight because I'm not getting anywhere close to that. So
yeah,
we'll talk about that at dinner.
So, and then 4-blade versus 3-blade, that's just going to depend on the boat, really. A 4-blade tip on a tunnel haul, I would almost tell you a 4-blade's going to be, if you're running something that has a lot of cavitation, like a tunnel haul, like a Florida Fisher, a shoal water, Simmons custom boats, you're going to want to run probably a 4-blade with a ton of cup.
Mm-hmm.
You need bite. You're constantly getting slipped because in the tunnel haul you're creating air. If you run a jack plate, do you not run a jack plate? All this stuff matters on prop. Some characteristics on basics on a prop is cupping. So this one, I took some of the cup out of it. This prop has a ton of cup. The cup is on the leading edge. You'll feel like a little lip. That lip is cup. Cup gives you bite. Bite is something that you need when you start running on elevated surfaces. If you run your jack plate maybe 3 inches up and the prop just loses its bite and it doesn't run good, you probably need to run something a little more cup. Downside, if you cup a prop too much, your whole shot gets bad. You can't get your RPMs up. It's insane what cup would do to a prop.
Right.
So you need to look at props too. Again, you have to figure out your application. You got to figure out what you're trying to accomplish. What's your boat like? What's weird about this inertia, and I don't know if I can show it up here. This prop, if you look, has hardly any cup.
Yeah, I just felt that that's what I was comparing.
Well, and the reason is the blades are huge. They're big. If you watch some of the videos on Mercury, they compare their Rev 4, which I didn't bring, which is a 4-blade, and the Eco is basically, it's the only prop I've ever ran that basically is like a 3-blade and a 4-blade.
Mm-hmm.
It has characteristics of both, and how they get the lift of a 4-blade because the blades are so big. If you measured blade surface with these 4 blades and these 3, it's going to be as close as it's going to get. But you get the fuel economy of a 3-blade. A 3-blade typically they used to say would be faster in general because it's less blades moving in the water.
Right.
Where a 4-blade's going to hold you. It's not really the case anymore with all the stepped hulls and different variations of boats. So you just really have to figure out what you're looking at. But you really have to know RPMs. You've got to know what pitch you're starting out at, and then you just got to work from there. Remember, the key is every pitch you change is 200 up or down. So if you go from a 21 to a 20, you're losing 200 RPM, or you're going to gain 200 RPMs. You're going to gain 200 RPMs. If you go from a 21 to a 22, you're going to lose 200 RPMs. That's a vague rule, but that's a good rule to go by. So that will tell you where you need to be. When you test a boat, is it supposed to be heavy or light? I would recommend going full tank of fuel and be somewhere in the middle range on your RPMs. The other thing is, do you typically run light? For us, we're always running heavy. So I want to run a prop that's a pitch lower than probably what I test, just to make up for heavy loads. We're always running 3 or 4 people throwing stuff on the boat. What else do we got?
Well, let's start. So we got a few questions here, right? And we might not be able to answer these perfectly, but it seems like we've got 2 people asking questions about Pathfinder. One, 225 HPDI, both 2200s, and one with a 150 VMAX carbed. So not knowing, I don't know if you have any feedback on that, a 2200 Pathfinder tournament.
I don't. I don't know what the gear case is on a 22. Do you have any clue what the gear case is? Is it a 175, 185? I don't know the HPDI.
That's even something, guys. If you want to message that to our page, we can go back and forth and ask you guys a couple questions about the boat and about what you'd like to change on it, and then maybe make a recommendation. But why don't you tell them that Mercury website, that prop selector that's on there, where it goes through those steps with them?
It does, but it's a good starting point, but it's so vague. You really have to get on the water and test props. It'll give you an idea. Like you can put in that you have a bow rider, and then you have this motor with this gear case.
But what I like about it is it gives you, like what it does, it says this prop might be optimal, and here's 2 others do you want to try. I think what it'll do is it'll give you some options you should be looking at, and then here in Tampa, we're lucky to have so many different places. I know there's Prop Gods, there's Admiral, there's a lot of places, or even your local mechanic.
There's a guy named Ken at Prop Gods. You can actually borrow the prop for a X amount of. Here's the problem. This prop's $700. This one's like $750. Who wants to go buy 3 props and you only need one, and maybe none of them work? I would recommend Ken at Prop Gods carries a lot of Mercury stuff. I actually learned some stuff from him about the tolerances on props. Like the way these props are made is pretty cool if you're watching on YouTube. And Mercury's really consistent. If they put a 19 pitch out, it's going to be 19. Where he was telling me some other manufacturers will put 3 19 pitches out, and they're all
different.
Oh yeah, they're all and if you got twin or triple engines, think about that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a headache.
Yeah.
So try Ken at Prop Gods. He'll be able to get you close.
Well, Armando, we could probably tell you that you need to look at something with maybe a less aggressive pitch, right? If that's what you're getting out of a 5,400 RPM.
But he's on a 2-stroke, so I think that might be within range.
Oh, okay,
Armando,
gotcha.
see, that's the problem. He's given me about a third of the information that I need to help him. Armando, you got to know what gear case you have. It should be on the side of the lower unit. And you're going to need to know what max RPMs. I could probably find out.
I thought it was 5750 on the old. This is the 150.
I've never owned an HPDI, so I'm not sure.
On the Schaefer, Tom, I've got a
18
Rev 4.
Rev 4. He's also running a 350. Tom, you need to run a. I haven't ran the Schaefer. This prop came off of a Schaefer. It runs good. From what I've been told from a good friend of mine, we did some prop testing on, which is the boat you have.
Yeah.
The Schaefer needs some bow lift because he's got quite a bit of weight in the center to make the boat level. This boat gives you a lot of stern lift, and it does, because of the big blades, a 4-blade will hold a boat at slower RPMs. This will hold you, but it also wants to push the nose a little bit. So the fuel economy is unbelievable. I can get with this prop on a 25 Pathfinder at 40 mile an hour, 3.3 miles to the gallon. With a full tower, I'm talking fuel. I've seen 3.8 miles to the gallon. That's unbelievable and that's the new V8 motor, which is better on fuel. Armando, so you're running a 4-stroke Yamaha?
No, he's running a 2-stroke carb. He said.
Oh, I I think it's a 185.
V-Max carb. You said it was
Okay. I need to know what the gear case is.
There's
On
a
a
lot
jet
to gain
boat?
on a jet boat. I
Yeah.
mean, you really want to. I would just say go. We'll give you 3 props to go ahead and order for your jet boat, and you report back.
Yeah, let me know
Good
how it
one,
works
Craig.
out.
There's
Let me know if you can get them on
Steven
there.
Chapman asked a good question here. When he's hammered down trying to jump up, should your motor jump to the max RPM range right away, or should it have to? I think it needs to work itself.
Yeah,
out.
if you're jumping the max RPM, you're either A, blowing the prop
That's
out, which
so-
means you're getting air,
Mhm.
or you're way
Spin out.
underpitched.
Mhm.
Where I tell you where propping gets a little weird, so I'm going to use Suzuki. Suzuki has I think it's a 238 gear case. So what that means is you could have a 300 with a 175 gear case and a 300 with a 238 gear case. The guy with a 175 is going to run a normal 17, 18 pitch. The guy with the Suzuki is going to be running a 23 or 22 pitch.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to run the same speed. It's just the reduction. It's like being second gear or first gear in a car. So, and when you start jumping up on that gearing, the motors, if they're under pitched, they seem to do weird stuff. Like they'll spool up real fast. It's strange. It's really weird the way, because I've been on actually Travis's boat and a thing. I mean, once you get them propped out right, they're okay. But if they're under prop, it's crazy the way they spin up. Tom, I think the Rev 4 is probably going to be the ticket.
I might want to try a 17. Well, I don't know. Mine's the 18 right now, and we'll talk about my RPMs later. But
yeah, Tom, we talked on the phone. Did you like the 17? That just seems
he said he
awful.
lifted.
Yeah,
good.
it seems like awful little bit of prop for that boat. The knock on the Schaefer makes a great boat, but they are heavy. So you're dealing with a lot of weight, and then you throw people in there and stuff, and it gets real heavy. The boat's beautiful, but they're tanks. So you have to compensate that with props. One prop that I would say I would like to try on that boat is a Bravo FS, which is what he runs. My problem with the Bravo FS is you typically will not have great hole shot under load, and the mid-range is just not good. It's a fast prop, but it'll hook up. You can run it. The Bass guys run these.
Yeah.
Like if you a Tempest, which is what you used to have, a Tempest and a Rev 4 or a Bravo FS or Bravo Series props are what they run for speed on lighter boats, but they got a lot of bow lift.
Craig asked a question here. Steven, one thing I know about the inline 4-stroke, the 200, is it's not a super torquey. It's an awesome motor.
Yes.
It's just not a super torquey motor.
So Rivers, you're running a 185-to-1 gear case, my Verado. So what was he spending? 60. I mean, you're right there. I wouldn't mess with it. If you're running 6,200 with a 21 pitch, that sounds right. What was the comment up there?
Gear case numbers are similar to the rear end of your truck.
Yeah,
right?
the higher the number you go on your rear end of a truck, the lower you're going to be, or the more RPMs you're going to turn on the same speed. So, no, it's actually opposite. So, no, you're right. Same. You got me thinking now. Yes, it's
Don't
the same
do
as your
that.
truck.
Boy, don't get him thinking.
Steven, put all 4 people on the front of the boat, man.
That's what I do. Move 'em.
Wow, with 4 people, if you have people in the front of a boat, the boat should get on plane fast.
Mm-hmm.
All your weight is in the front. Where you're going to have problems is getting the bow up. It's going to ride like crap and probably get everybody wet. So it just sounds like you got – scroll that back down. Should a 200 with a right prop be able to handle that? A 2250 Skeeter tower – you're probably
He might be a little underpowered.
Yeah, and the problem with the 200 Yamaha, it's the same. It's not the same anymore. It's a 4-cylinder motor. It's not a V6.
I
so
know.
you're
Cracker
losing.
Boy's going through the same thing. He has one on a Master Angler.
They're 200.
It's an economical. It's like
they're great motors out here.
Yeah, it is.
It's a 150 that's basically
tuned up a little bit.
tuned up.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you could probably make. This is what I would tell you to do. See if you can spin one of these ecos. What pitch are you turning? He'll have to get back to me.
Yeah, let us know.
But
Steve.
so this is one thing I want to get into because I know we're going to run out of time here.
We always do on the props episode.
Yeah. So this is a hub kit. This prop. Both these props, all Mercury props, have a hole. There's no splines. There's nothing. So there's multiple benefits James, can you hold that for me?
Yep.
There's multiple benefits from running these hub kits. So if you, man, I hope I ain't got to take this out. I think I do. No, I don't. Okay. So whether it's a Yamaha, Suzuki, I recommend these hub kits to everybody. This right here is basically like your Cush hub. Anybody listen out there, probably a lot of people spun a hub. I know I've spun a hub. And when you spin a traditional hub, you have a spline that's like this, and you have a rubber cush. What happens when you hit something, the prop is designed to break that rubber cushion. Well, it all works great, but when you break the rubber cushion, you're stuck in the water, or you're stuck barely idling because you got to limp in or you got to have somebody tow you, and it's not as bad. What Mercury has done is they have designed a hub kit that pops in, and you can get them with all different threads. This slides in like this, just like that. It'll pop in. This will go in them splines like that. Then you got your nut that'll go here, and for Mercury they run this nut. If you got a Yamaha, you're probably going to have a key.
You can use the one.
You have a key, and then you just bend the one. Mm-hmm. This right here is going to go on the back of the lower unit. So what happens is, say you hit a rock or whatever. I'm not going to go get this out now. Give me that pin. Can't get it out. I'm going to stab myself. Hold on a sec.
Don't open the blade and do it.
Well, there we go. I didn't want to break it. It was in there a little ways. So instead of, if you spin a hub, this will break. Now here's the good thing. You go, okay, well that's the same thing. Well, no.
It's not.
If you carry a prop wrench and you have an extra one of these, which you can buy, all you do is take your nut off. This will come out. I've spun one. They'll come out in pieces. You knock them out, throw them in the boat. You stick your new hub in. You tighten your nut down. You're off and running.
Good to go.
I mean, versus the old style, you actually have to take it to a prop
I was
shop.
gonna say, even if you don't have one with you, get yourself home, go buy one, stick it in, versus taking your prop to somebody and have
that's
them
the flow torque,
rehub
right?
it.
Yep, it's the flow torque, and it works. You can see right here. That's all the props. It works with every Mercury prop. The only different hub they have now is for the 350s and 400s and the new V8s. They have a hub that you have to knock in. It's a little bit more of a pain, but it takes the higher horsepower. But it's still a Cush hub, and you can still change in the water. You just have to have a hammer with you. But this will work on all manufacturers, and it will save you. Say you're in the morning, you hit something, and you just spin the hub.
Your day's not over.
You go pop this out, get in the water, go on the shallow, pull up on a bank. 10 minutes, as long as you didn't damage the prop too bad, you can run your trip or go fishing for the day. I'm telling you, Mercury has done a great job on coming out with stuff like this.
You're running that same kit, I take it, Rick?
Uh-huh.
Me too.
Yeah, it's and you can buy the parts to it. It's a great deal. Other thing they do.
Now let me ask you this.
Yeah.
You can, if you have a conventional hub and you spin the hub, sometimes you can get away with, at low RPMs,
limping in.
Yeah,
that's what it's designed to do.
Will this do the same thing if you shatter this into pieces?
Yep.
Okay.
When I've done it, I had to limp into the bank, and it would very slow, just like it's the same deal. Here's something else I want to bring up, and I'm going to use Mercury again because they have it. They have an app to do this. So there's something called a prop slip calculator. It tells you how much slip you have on. So like say you're running 6,000 RPMs, you're in range on your motor, but you're still not happy with the speed. You're running 50 mile an hour. A prop slip calculator, you take your gear case number, your max speed, and your max RPM, and you put that in, and when you put it in, it'll tell you a percent of your prop slip. 10% and under is great. If you're running 20% slip, that prop is not the right prop for your boat. It's just not. And they have you can Mercury prop slip calculator, Mercury Racing prop slip calculator. You can type it on your phone. There's other ones. Just type in prop slip calculator. It's very easy. And that'll tell you which prop is kind of right for your boat. Yeah. Because if your slip is too bad, again, this sounds like a lot, but it's really not, guys. It's pretty basic. Find out what blade you want. Find your gear case number, which is on the side of your gear case, or call your dealer. You can also find out what max RPM range is on your boat and go to the lake or the ramp, get a few props, and go to work. It doesn't have to be a Mercury prop. Get a Yamaha prop. Get a Suzuki prop. I'm using these because I believe in them. I'll tell you who's got, and I'm going to give this too. PowerTech has great customer service, and they've got some good props. I run a PowerTech on our tunnel haul boat. It's a small diameter prop because we're running a 150, which is a 4-cylinder. Whoever had the 200, you might want to look into this. We're running a PowerTech PTC. It's a smaller diameter, so the motor spins up on them 4-cylinders,
right.
but it's got a lot of bite. It's got a ton of cup in it, but it's a smaller wheel. And whoever had this Skeeter.
That's Steve.
Okay.
Chapman.
Okay, Steve, go call PowerTech and talk to them. Mercury's also got a hotline that they can help you in the right place. But you have to give these guys data. You can't just say, well, I got a Skeeter with a 200. What do you recommend?
Mm-hmm.
They can't. You're not giving them you got to give them what RPMs you're turning, what gear case you're at,
Your
and what
prop.
speed. They will tell you. They're going to put it in prop slip calculator and say, well, I think, based on that prop and the information you gave me, we need to look at maybe going to a bigger diameter or a 4-blade. Went through 4 props on my 20-foot bay with Suzuki 18-200. I'm not sure.
18 pitch 200.
Okay.
200 horse is what I'm going to guess that is.
Or 2018.
Not
Probably.
a 200 horse on a 20-foot bay, probably.
Yeah.
Doubt it.
Tim, did you get it dialed in? Leo, the spare prop's good, but
Money bags. Money bag Leo.
all you got to do is carry one of these, man. I mean, the props in a boat, all they do is nick up your gel coat. And
Yeah.
I mean, there's just a pain
Plus,
there.
what are these? How much?
$35-$40, I think.
What are these? 500?
750.
700?
Yeah.
Give me the 50.
Only lost 4 on top. Yeah, I mean, and let's face it, guys. When you're saying, okay, I want to go fast, that's fine. But most people can't. If you're in Tampa Bay, you can't run wide open 80% of the time.
Right.
It just don't happen. So you have to figure out, what you want to do. Let me throw something else too. If you guys run a prop, and if it's a Mercury prop, and PowerTech will drill holes in yours, and say you're like, man, I'm close. I bought this prop. I'm stuck with it. The whole shot seems to be okay, but say you're like 100, 150 RPMs off from where you need to be. These vent holes, this is called PVS right here. You can get different size holes. You can even pop on a 4-blade 2 across out. That will let you gain a little bit better hole shot. The air comes around the blades and creates a little bit of slip. That will also let you jump maybe 100, 150 RPMs up. So there's some options. You can play with stuff to the other thing you can do, if you got a prop, the worst thing is you bought a prop and you're close, but you need to go down a pitch or two. If you take it to some of the prop
Admirals
companies,
and one I know people use.
they can knock a pitch out of the prop. So if it's an 18, you need to be a 17. They can knock it to 17. Now I will tell you, this comes off a casting. It's not going to be a true 17-pitch prop, but they will be able to get you a little bit more RPM versus buying a totally new prop. Some of the other stuff too. I'm not even getting the barrel cutting. More I thought about that, it's just going to confuse people. Prop slip.
Hang on, wait. I think a big one though, like especially if I were to, rewind 5 years back into my life, I thought I knew generally. Well, one thing you didn't mention. What are the general myths and truths about a 4-blade versus 3-blade? Just if you're looking at one versus the other, 4 versus 3. What would you say?
3-blade, it's not a myth. They've always been faster top end, so they've said, which is not true. And a 4-blade will typically give you better hole shot, and a 4-blade will give you more holding power in a heavy chop, which is not always true.
And also on my boat, in my motor, I can stay on plane at lower RPMs.
Yes, but this is where
which is cool for
stuff
running.
like this has changed that. Because you watch Mercury, they have a Rev 4 versus Eco.
Well, maybe this one, yes. I don't know.
Yeah, that's where things have gotten weird because the guy straight up says, we built this 3-blade to out. It's like the big brother of the 4-blade. It does everything but a little bit better. I will say that this prop will push more because each revolution you're getting more out of every blade.
Right.
This one's giving less out of every blade, but it's got more blade, which gives you that holding power.
Sure.
I am gonna talk about the barrels. There's little things too. Look at the difference in the height. I don't know if they can see it on the barrel. Doesn't look like a lot, but that's gonna give you better bow lift with a cut barrel. A lot of the guys with yellow fins are running the Rev 4s. A lot of the guys are running Rev 4s that are tweaked. They'll cut the barrel on them to get additional bow lift because you're always fighting the bow on a step.
Now you can see that difference.
Yeah, there's a substantial, and this is a 4-blade, it's a 3. There's also they'll bevel the barrel. It'll have a little bevel on it that gives you a little bit more lift on it. But these little things, just the barrel cut, the size of the blade. You look at it, you go, man, that's not that big of a deal. It still blows my mind.
But the short barrel is a bow lift.
Gives you bow lift. A longer barrel will act as somewhat of a trim tab and give you a little more stern lift. This prop is an overall lifting.
Which, depending on your boat being front heavy, back heavy,
big difference.
Huge difference.
Huge difference.
Could be a huge difference.
He would need more of a bow lifting. This prop runs great on the Schaefer, but it pushes the bow a little bit.
Right.
And that's the one thing. And I haven't ran it, but that's what I've been told. And so there's so many different variations. I don't want to confuse people. I'm going to tell you right now, I've ran a lot of props from Mercury. The Bravos are always the performance props that you're going to run on. You want to go fast. You want the prop to stay hooked up when you put your jack plate in the air. It's going to not lose its bite. All around, the Inertia Eco is probably, I bet you, their best seller, and the Rev 4. Them are the two props. They're not going to be the fastest in all cases. Actually, this prop right here.
I'm trying to find something flat that'll show you that when you had the camera, you couldn't really tell how big a difference the height on those are. There you go. That's like almost an inch. If it's not an inch.
And you can, I've tried cutting the barrels on these, and you can run them, but the blade's so long, you'll get a little bit of air from the exhaust in between. So I don't like playing with them too much. And a lot of times, too, propping, it's kind of like, man, Mercury has probably tried it.
Yeah, right.
The only thing I will say, I think the Rev 4, like if you cut your barrel, you might notice a little bit of difference on bow lift. And it's relatively cheap. I mean, they just take it to Admiral, they'll chop about 1.5 inches or whatever off. But there's just so many different variations on props. Biggest thing I want to tell people, a lot of people don't do it. There's a lot of technology on your boats now. Be comfortable with your boat. When you're testing props, I see people running through the bay and they have their they'll tell you the trim. What's the trim for? That's the trim's for when I'm trailering. No, the trim. No, the trim.
I've never heard that.
Oh yeah, that's when I'm trailering. I got to pick the motor up. Well, yes, but no, the trim. Actually, you know, if your boat, if you put your trim tabs all the way down, the bow's going to run down. Well, if you trim your motor all the way down, it's going to push the bow down. Trim all the way down, typically on a normal boat, is not the optimum way to find out what prop you need, your best fuel mileage. I can make my boat go from 2.5 miles to gallon to 3.5 with trim.
Just trim.
Just trim. You have, and that's where I put on here. It's huge. Learn how to drive your boat from the seat of your pants. Sit your rear end on your leaning post. Go out there on a flat day. Don't have people moving around. Don't use trim tabs. And it sounds like Dirk. It might be me. Take your boat, get on plane, put a trim all the way down, and start bumping your trim. And a lot of times you'll feel that boat hit the sweet spot where it'll feel like you hit the throttle, but all you did was get the bow up and you got it comfortable.
Just feel it, yeah.
It's really noticeable in like the 25 Pathfinder. It's a stepped hull. You can feel it get
soon as it
on that step.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yellowfins are probably going to be the same way. So you just have to figure out what works for you. But you're like, well, I don't know if I want to mess with that. Well, then why did you even mess with buying the 300 versus the 250? Because you're probably losing that kind of performance with a crappy prop. without knowing how to run your boat.
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally that much difference.
Justin, I saw your question earlier, man. There's a lot of good chargers on the market. I mean, Minn Kota makes a great one. Pro Sportsman makes a great one. NoCo Genius, I found to be the simplest, most economical one that lasts a lifetime.
PowerPole's about to release the charge, and that is going to be a game changer. Especially if you're an inshore or bass guy, they're literally about to release that.
Yeah.
I have not used it. Supposed to have one on my boat. I haven't got it yet.
I would give them a go just because of customer service.
For sure. And if you can't wait, Justin, there's actually been a couple people who watched our show where we talked about batteries and chargers, and they message us, and I said, hey, look, the NoCo Genius is probably going to be your best value option. It's going to be a darn good charger. Mm-hmm. A few of them messaged me as they were doing the install asking how to hook it up. And months later, they're just like loving it. I mean, there's so many good brands now. I got the. I get rid of my boats, so I haven't had any problems with the ones they sell at West Marine. They're yellow. I don't even know which ones they are. Pro Marine, Sportsman. Yeah.
They work fine. I got two of them.
Yeah.
They're relatively inexpensive.
Yeah. There's a lot of good ones. I mean, you just got to look at how fast do you need those batteries charged, and
do you want to charge on the go? That's a big thing. You're going to pay for it, but it's worth it. In tournaments, it's worth it. What was the other question?
There was one.
Jack plates. So, yeah, they're putting jack plates on 36 and 39-foot yellowfins to get the more – when you're talking 70, 55, 60, 70 mile an hour, lower units create drag. The more you can get that lower unit out of the water, the less drag you have without blowing the prop out. Mm-hmm. So what these guys are doing is they're coming up on the plate, and they're using – cup and the prop to stay for the prop to stay hooked up, but they're getting that lower unit out of the water. And they're just it's all performance. On a boat like mine, it is a little performance. It's more getting into the shallows. So it just depends. And I will tell you, this prop is it kind of defies what I say. Cup gives you more bite. This prop has great bite with little to no cup in it.
Yeah, I felt that.
And it's just the diameter.
The size of the blade.
Just it almost hits the lower unit. It's crazy. I recommend if you're just going to
start. That's one thing you need to know right now. I can tell you on a Yamaha 300, your fin is going to have to be altered or removed to run the Eco prop, or any prop that comes out in the future that has a 16-inch diameter. So just know that.
Yeah, and all you got to do, honestly, is take a little die grinder and notch it. It's just the zinc. I wouldn't take it off because the zinc's there for corrosion. But just take a zinc. But if I had to recommend two props from Mercury, I know we're getting to the end of the show. Inertia Eco, not the regular Inertia. The regular Inertia is good, but you're going to get a lot of slip on that. Inertia Eco, and look at a Rev 4. Yeah. If you want performance and you're looking for hooking up, any of the Bravo series, go on YouTube, Mercury, and there's has a lot of good information on.
But be careful; you can sit there for hours watching some of those videos.
I would go with if you're gonna go and you're trying to learn about props. I would go on manufacturers. Go by manufacturer. The people got out there. People were on YouTube are idiots. Some of them, they have no clue what they're talking about. I hate to say that.
We're on YouTube.
I'm
just saying.
Some of them are, but I'm saying like if you're looking for good information, go to Mercury's page. You'll see some good information on props. They have a lot of stuff out there. Evinrude's got some stuff on props. It's all going to say the same literature, but maybe the videos and stuff will help you understand what we're saying. So,
hey, before we take off, though, I said there was a tournament I want to mention.
Yes.
So coming up in October, I believe the captain's meeting is October 11th, and the tournament is October 12th, but it's the first annual Veterans Inshore Slam fishing tournament. It's going to be held on the South Shore. I think it's going out of Simmons Park. There's going to be a captain's meeting at 6 o'clock, I think, and that's at Salty Shamrock Irish Pub over there in Apollo Beach. But, the proceeds are going to benefit the Habitat for Humanity. It's a new upstart tournament. This is going to be the first one of it. But I'm going to try and participate in it. But it's open to the public, guys. So anybody who wants to get into that, there's actually a Facebook page for this. If you just look up Veteran Slam Fishing Tournament, you'll see it on there. I think Captain Jared Wallach is one of the guys who's kind of overseeing or organizing that event, along with some other fellows. But we'll try to share some info to the page. But going to be tons of prizes, all kinds of giveaways. I know Humpback got involved in that and donated as well. So definitely good cause. Going to be a lot of fun. It's October. Fishing's going to be awesome. So if you can, we'll continue to plug it, each week as we get closer. But just want to share that with you guys.
Yeah, one thing too, we have an Instagram page which we need to start using.
Oh yeah,
Get Spooled.
Get Spooled. Yep.
We got a ton of followers on there. We're going to start using that more. Maybe we're going to start putting some fishing reports. So check that out. Also check out our YouTube page. To the guys running that Veterans Tournament, I do want to let you know, Hooked on Hope is that same day. I don't know. I know it's probably too late to change the date, but
I don't know.
If you're trying to get captains, it's going to be a grind to get. I think you're going to be fighting to get guys. So just to let you know, I don't know if they're watching or but a great cause and great tournament. Sure it's going to be a great turnout. But I don't know, guys. Y'all ready to go eat?
I'm ready to go eat. The Instagram page is get_spooled. Get Spooled with an underscore between it.
And if you want to do a charter. I know I've got some openings coming up, James.
I've got some openings coming up, especially after this rain.
Phone numbers here.
813-625-2067.
813-727-9890.
813-601-2900.
All three of us are full-time captains. We would love to get you guys on the water. Give us a call. Till next week, tight lines and catch them up.